Thank you very much, Matt, and thank you everyone for coming. It's an absolute pleasure to share a room with such experienced people, and that's the main thing that I find with the club. It's just great to be in a room with such a high caliber of people in the industry. So today I want to talk about how to use technology to make more money from development and create an inspiring world. That's my agenda. So I'm going to do a little introduction about us. I'm going to identify what I believe, slightly similar and slightly different to what Dan believes are developers' main challenges, and then how technology can help solve them, and then take some questions. So I'm Oliver Lowry, director of Ackroyd Lowry. This is a typical size development on screen at the moment. It's 70 units plus ground floor commercial. The construction budget on that's about 15 million, so looking at GDVs, hopefully over 30. We specialise in regeneration schemes, and really it's commercial and resi, so we want to create inspiring places to live and work. We're sort of recognised as market leaders in implementing new technology. So this is an article that Forbes wrote about us recently, where they said our innovative applications of technology, such as VR, off-site volumetric construction, could help solve the housing crisis, which is great praise. We've published a white paper, in fact, about the subject of this how new technology can help solve the housing crisis, and this has got an intro from Liz Peace, who's head of the Old Oak Common Redevelopment Corporation, and also we work with Land Aid quite a lot, and she's a fellow ambassador of that. It's a fantastic charity. Not that 88 Bikes isn't good, also. Room for more than one charity. So last year we won an award for our design process, which uses virtual reality, and I'm going to talk about it in a bit more detail, but just the judges said that being the first practice to implement VR sign-off on every project feels like the future. And some of you might recognise Nicole. We did some filming last week on one of our sites. It's a big co-working scheme. Again, I'll talk about this again later, but she was looking at the final version whilst we were on site, quite a lot of temporary works around us. So, background. That's Ackroyd and Lowry in 2009. On our first development site. This is a warehouse in Bermondsey. We were actually part of the SPV that developed this. So from the outset, we've always understood the commercial realities of projects, which I think puts us in a good place. Our background before that was we met at Archetype, which is a fantastic practice. I spent 10 years there, and we did quite a lot of post-occupancy evaluations. So going back into buildings and looking at what worked, what didn't work, identifying problems, and trying to work out exactly why those problems occurred. And my summary from 2 years of research funded by the British government is that poor briefing, poor sign-off of design, of the design, and kind of like a misunderstanding of intention from the architect to the client, and then from the client back to the architect, and poor coordination between consultants, and then poor coordination when you're on site, causes most of the building problems. And Ackroyd Lowry was kind of a post-recession idea to solve this broken system as we saw it, and I think those of you that work in the UK construction industry probably would agree, if you had to come up with a more backwards way of creating anything, you'd be hard pushed. So this was the outcome of that first development, 5-unit little scheme, but we were off and running, and this is where we are now. So we've got a team of 12, and for us, we start with why. Our why is to build an inspiring world. That's the top level of our kind of vision. Our values, we also have values, are passion, fun, and trust. So slightly less wordy than yours.
It's not a competition. My values are bigger than yours.
Yeah. But mine are more passionate and fun. No heckling. But why should developers care? And what I want to talk about is exactly that. Why should people share in this vision with us? Well, I think it's because we've set up our process around trying to solve the problems that we think that developers have, particularly developing in London. So these are the 4 things that I believe on every site. It's finding the site, achieving a good planning consent, the delivery, and then the sales. And I think architects tend to focus on achieving good planning consent and delivery. They don't tend to focus on the commercial realities of finding sites, and they don't tend to focus on the sales. So little show of hands, who's a developer who uses architects? How many of them have asked you about your sales process? You can put your hand up if they have. Good, none. I think it's puzzling for me, and I think what I'm going to talk about today is the fact that we're trying to focus on this sales. I mean, at the moment, nothing's selling, so any way that we can try and make that easier for you has got to be a reason that we should work together. So these are the 4 issues. This is the design process that it's not even the design process, this is the end-to-end process that we've set up around it. The 6 Ps: place, profile, political engagement, prototyping, production, and promotion. And I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of those. So it starts with place. I think somebody said to me the other day, he who holds the purse strings on a development is the one that's in control. And I would disagree in London with that. I think there's plenty of cash around. He who holds the site, the deal, he really makes all the key decisions. So we kind of recognize this imbalance between lots of money, not many sites. And so we now have an in-house site sourcing team. So most developers want architects to do sort of spec work, and we're totally fine with that. So we've actually set up tools to do that, so we can kind of automate part of the process. So we've got free site capacity study tools and a free GDV calculator. So you send me the site, I send you back a little model like this, based on the most recent planning data. And also what we do for our clients is this is a bit of barking that we got our site guys to look at, and they use, there's Land Insight, there's Nimbus, but they are like ninjas. In fact, Matt knows both of them, Liam and Anthony, and has worked with them extensively. And I think you'd agree, Anthony is like he's like the milk tray of property. He can swoop through a window and find the last vendor, the last missing piece of the puzzle. And so if you're trying to put a development together and you just need that last piece and you can't track that person down, come to us, we'll give you Anthony for the weekend. So, place. Profile. So this is the bit that it puzzles me. I think to build an inspiring world, it's got to be bespoke, right? And I think that most developments that you see, people are just producing the same generic box, and it puzzles me why that happens. I think having done 10 years of, 15 years of designing stuff for people, it's because at the start of the brief, people are just like, well, we kind of want to sell it. Maybe some family units, maybe some non-family units. And nobody really digs into who you're trying to sell to, and I think it really unlocks a huge part of not only the design, but then the sales, if you can really identify who it is you're trying to sell to at the start. So again, we've built a little tool. The first thing that it does is we look at where your site is, and we'll do some basic demographic studies. So we'll tell you kind of age range of people that recently purchased properties. And then the next bit is kind of over to you. So we've got a tool that's a questionnaire. It has simple questions like, how important is it to your buyers that they have a bath in their flat? If you know that you're trying to sell to families in the suburbs, it's absolutely crucial. If you're trying to sell to me, it's not, because I need a jacuzzi and a sauna. So I'm not going to buy that bath. Anyway, it avoids bland spec development. And what it does is it gives us a rich sort of brief. And what that allows us to do is, because we know who we're trying to sell to, we kind of know the stories they want to hear. We want to make this easy for you to sell. So we should be getting the story right as it goes through. So that means that we can then link up with PR companies, we can get the stories online, we can start tweaking the design. So if we know that we're selling to millennials, then we're going to put laundry apps and stuff like this that sells to millennials as part of the brief. And then we're going to kind of get this engagement with journalists at the end that's going to make them writing a story really easy. Good design is what I want to do. Selling units is what you guys want to do, but this is a win-win for us because we get to do both. So, third bit, political engagement. This is not actually strictly a technological solution. Although we do work with the GLA, and this was a picture of a breakfast that we recently did. So we've got Colin Wilson, who's actually at Southwark at the moment, but he's GLA, and we've got Justin Carr from the GLA, and we've got some of our clients, and what we're doing there is really nailing down into the New London Plan. So the New London Plan is going to dictate the way that planning development happens over the next 15, 20 years, and it's based on all this research that the GLA did about where spare land is, and it no spoiler, it tends to be these kind of industrial locations which can be intensified. So we're doing a lot of work kind of identifying boroughs where there is capacity, which tends to be the outer London boroughs, and also Labour local governments who support development. It just tends to be the way that it is. Understanding the politics at local level is so much more important than understanding it at a national level. Brexit, whatever, that nobody is more secure in their seats than the local politicians who've just been elected. They've got 2 years to run now. So they're not facing the same uncertainty. They're very certain, and they want to deliver affordable housing. Or what we do is work out what borough wants what. We can't influence their decision. We can't make it any easier for you to get planning, except for by telling you what they want, understanding their ambitions, so that you can bring forward schemes that you know are going to deliver the levels of affordable they want, the levels of cultural, the levels of commercial that they want. So free networking, that's one of the things that we do. And if anybody would like an invite to one of our next breakfasts, we get really great people to come and just have a debate with us. In fact, Matt, I stole this off you. This is Hush in Mayfair, which is a great restaurant as well. It's a good venue. So this is sort of more, I think, what Matt was referring to with the 3D stuff. So prototyping. What me and John learned at Archetype was that a lot of the stuff that went wrong on projects was just simple stuff, which if you'd been able to walk around a one-to-one model of your building before it got built and you're the client, you would have gone, no, you've totally misunderstood what I meant by that. Or no, that's great, like let's make that window bigger. These are the complaints that you get were surprisingly mundane, and better sign-off would have really made a difference. So we scratched our heads a little bit, and the best way that we've worked out to do a one-to-one model is virtual reality. So we will make a 3D model very accurately of the space. This is Nicole standing in a old tram shed in Caledonian Road, and this is what it's going to look like at the end. And she's essentially experiencing that, although she's standing on the floor below. And you really get an amazing insight into the client's understanding of the space when you show them this, because they're not many people, even the developers in the room, always spot everything on plan, and sometimes it's not even drawn. When you're in there and you're walking around, I do it regularly to make sure that I understand my own designs. It's really changing the way that we work. So, free VR sign-off on every project. We use it with planners, we use it with stakeholders, particularly if you're doing a mixed-use regen project, which we do quite a lot of. There's a multitude of stakeholders who all have different understandings of what they want out of it. We can put a line in the sand. We will usually make 3 different versions. We'll sit them next to each other, and they'll go in the VR. They can walk around one. They're like, I don't like it. You're like, all right, try next door. And then they walk down to the next one. They're like, I like some of that. And you're like, all right, fine, what should we do? And we make a 3rd one live. They go back in it, and they're satisfied. And that's kind of instant design feedback that is really crucial for us. So the other output that you can get when you model everything in 3D is we've got a 3D printer in the office. So this is the 3D printed model that we don't use on every project, but just the ones where we like you. But that is only a small version, really, of what you can then do if you've got a good BIM model, which is to get it directly made by an off-site manufacturer. So this is a 9-unit scheme, or part of a 9-unit scheme that we delivered for Woking Council. It was all affordable housing, and it was delivered entirely off-site. This is volumetric construction, so it was made in 21 pieces in Hull, carted down the A1 on the back of 21 lorries, and then put together, and this was after 3 days. So it was actually 3 months in the factory, and in that time we put in the drainage, we put in the pad foundations, but 3 days after they started the modular installation, that's where we were. And 9-unit development delivered in 3 months on site. Our process has been developed to solve developers' pain points. This is it at the end. There's better. It's not. We didn't actually do the planning design, so I can't. We just delivered it, but it doesn't look like it was made in a factory, and I think that's pretty cool. So the last bit is promotion, and this is where if you've done your research at the front end, then your PR stories have kind of made themselves. You're making sure that you're targeting publications that the people that are buying your units are going to be reading. And what we offer is to make a microsite that will contain the kind of the stories. And then it's quite easy then to do outbound social advertising to target buyers because we know who they are. We can do the kind of, dare I say it, Cambridge Analytica on people. And in a less cynical way, because these are only people that are going to want to buy the product that you're developing. Pay-per-click and SEO for keywords. So what we found is that people, they don't tend to go to Rightmove and then search. They'll start that search by going, I want to live in Leighton. And what a pay-per-click will do is get your name of your development to the top of the list above Rightmove, if they're targeted, And what you can also then get is a full report on the kind of success of your campaign. And so that the circle is then completed, and we've got much more data that we can use for the next time round to make sure that we're targeting sharper and sharper. I've rattled through that, so I think I'm pretty much there. Just to say that this is one of the larger developments that we're now working on, which is a kind of mixed-use regen scheme, which we can't say too much about. And this is another one that we're doing in Croydon, which is for Inspired Assets, which is where we're doing an amazing kind of roof terrace cinema and bar. If you want to get in touch about any of the tools that we talked about, then email me, grab me. These are freely available things. We want to make your lives easier and work with you to build an inspiring world. So thank you very much.